Hey y'all, before I start this video, I want to say some of the things talked about in this video dealing with gorilla strength is not confirmed. It is just kind of my educated guess. I'm not a primatologist, I'm not a scientist, I'm just some dumb guy on the internet who loves gorillas. Y'all good? Cool. Enjoy the video. The strength of a gorilla is a big part of what makes these great apes so special. Their strength plays a role in their way of life. It helps them fight off predators who are there to attack them and their family. Gorillas use their strength as a display of dominance to other gorillas to show them that they are the alpha, and sometimes fighting other silverbacks to the death for mating rights. Their strength is basically used to impress females for mating. It really comes back down to mating in the end, I guess. There's another thing me and gorillas have in common, but it doesn't work for me. Anyways, their strength helps them climb trees to retrieve food, build nests, or just move heavy objects in their way. But the real question is, how strong are these apes? It's a very hot topic on the internet. How much can they lift? Is it 1,000? 10,000? A million? Quintillion pounds? Who knows? Well, today I will find out why they are so strong and how strong they are and what is the maximum amount of strength they can get. So let's take a dive into the gorilla and see how strong these absolute units can get. Okay, so before I look at how strong they are, I'm going to explain why they're strong. I briefly explained it in my gorilla lore video, but I'll explain it more in detail here. So as we know, the biology of a gorilla is very much different from a human. A human needs lots of protein and high intensity exercise to build muscle, but gorillas are just built different and have a completely different way of digesting food. You see, gorillas can actually extract proteins from plants, and this is the main reason as to why they get big muscles. But how, you may ask? How can gorillas get big muscles from plants, but I can't? It's simple. Because gorillas can digest a specific part of the plant called cellulose, which humans cannot. You see, gorillas have a gut bacteria that can break down fermentation of cellulose. This process is possible because gorillas have long intestines. And with fermenting cellulose, which cellulose is a fiber by the way, this fermentation extracts nutrients including protein. The goddamn digestive tract extracts protein from fiber. That's so gosh darn beautiful. The diet of a gorilla is as follows. The western lowland gorilla eats at least 97 species of plants. 67.5% of their diet is fruit, 17.5% is leaves, and 3% is termites and caterpillars. The eastern lowland gorilla, at the bare minimum, consumes 104 species of plants. The mountain gorilla's diet is pretty different, as 86% of their diet is leaves, shoots, and stems. 7% is roots, 3% is flowers, and 2% is fruits. And the rest of the 2% is ants, snails, and grubs. And the cross river gorilla has limited information on what they eat, but through stool samples, they also have a similar diet as the following gorillas, with eating fruits, leaves, and invertebrates. But as you can see, majority of that is fruits and vegetables, while actually meat is only about 2% of their diet, which is just insects. Now. I know what you're thinking. Well, since gorillas can get protein from vegetables, why are they stronger than humans? Heck, some humans are the same size as gorillas, but aren't nearly as powerful. Not only are gorillas and humans' digestive tracts different, but their muscles are different as well. That's right, their muscles. You see, gorillas' skeletal muscles have higher fast-twitch muscle fibers than humans. What are fast-twitch muscle fibers? Fast-twitch muscle fibers, or type 2 muscle fibers, are movements that are short but powerful and explosive. For example, sprinting, lifting heavy weights, hit-sticking someone in the NFL, kicking the crap out of a soccer ball. Those are what fast-twitch muscle fibers are used for, and gorillas have more than humans do, while human skeletal muscle has more type 1 muscle fibers, or slow muscle fibers. Slow-twitch muscle fibers are for more endurance, for example, running a marathon. Low intensity, but it lasts a long time. That's slow-twitch muscle fibers, and majority of the time, humans have a split of 50% fast-twitch and 50% slow-twitch muscle fibers. While gorillas have shown through studies, through the shoulder, chest, and calf muscles, they have 14% slow-twitch muscle fibers and 85% fast-twitch muscle fibers. And since gorillas have more fast-twitch muscle fibers, this causes them to be explosive and powerful. As well as some of them being 500 pounds and having this much fast-twitch muscle fibers, it's gonna make you really strong. Gorillas also have thicker bones than humans. Gorillas and other apes have a higher density of spongy bone than humans, and with that, it causes them to have larger and stronger bones. So we're all cut up, we get how they're stronger and how they get so big? Alright, cool. Let's move on. So as I mentioned in my other gorilla video, check it out. Gorillas have more power in their upper body than their legs. And it's completely different from a human, as humans' biggest muscles are the gluteus maximus, aka your thick butt, and quads, or your thighs. So using our big smart brains, biggest muscle equals strongest muscle. So humans' legs are stronger than their upper body, while gorillas' biggest muscles are their shoulders and their arms. So the strongest part of their body is their shoulders and arms. So now let's take a look at the legs of a gorilla and how strong they are. Now again, gorilla's anatomy is more adapted to pulling and not pushing, so the legs are not as useful for the gorilla. Don't get me wrong, their legs are powerful and are useful for walking, climbing trees, and such, but they're not as important as their upper body for the gorilla. And looking at photos of their legs, they're not as well defined with muscle as their chest, arms, and back. Again, still very strong, but not as much as their upper body. So basically, in theory, a gorilla would be able to deadlift and bench press more than a squat. Now to the upper body. The gorilla's arms and shoulders are a very important part of the gorilla's way of life. They're used for a lot of tasks, like picking up heavy objects, moving heavy objects, ripping down trees, fighting other gorillas, or just moving as they are because they walk on their front two arms. So you get it, their upper bodies are more powerful than their lower bodies. The reason for this is through evolution, as gorillas mainly use their strength for pulling, thus helping them pick up stuff, and as well for defense, as they use their arms to flail around like a lunatic to hit stuff that are trying to kill it. And this is the main reason why their upper body is bigger than their lower body, as you can see. But you get it, they have really, really good strength in their upper body. Now, gorillas are not only physically strong, but the bite force of a gorilla is also insanely strong, as they have a bite force of 13,000 pounds per square inch. This is the most powerful bite of all apes, and is even more powerful than a lion, grizzly bear, tiger, and a freaking polar bear. And the reason for their powerful bite was because their jaws need to be strong enough to bite through bark and roots. They got all of that by being vegans. Absolutely bonkers how nature works sometimes. I love it. Okay everyone, now we know the strongest part of a gorilla. Now let's figure out how strong they are at each age. Baby gorilla. Alright, it's a toddler, it's actually smaller than a human baby, so it's just as strong as they would be. So how much could a human baby lift? I don't know. I saw this child at 1 year old lift 15 pounds, so we'll go with that. A baby gorilla can lift 15 pounds. So congrats, that's how strong a gorilla is. Please subscribe and leave a like. Now let's skip a few years to their adolescent age. Basically their teenage years. But it's not teenage years, it's like 6 to 12 years old. Female adolescent gorillas are 6 to 8 years old, and males are 6 to 12 years old. Now listen, I know I said I'd be finding the gorilla's strength, but listen now, it's unknown how strong an adolescent gorilla is. But caretakers have said adolescent gorillas still have enough strength to overpower a full-grown adult man. These boys are weighing about 200 to 250 pounds at this age. And this is adolescent years, people. Even at half the size of what they grow into, they're still stronger than an adult human male. How much stronger? I don't know. But if I had to guess, I'd probably say 2 times as strong as the average person. The average human deadlift is roughly 250 pounds for those who don't work out. So an adolescent gorilla could probably lift 500 pounds. It's just estimated. Please don't hurt me. But now let's look at the big lads. What we have been waiting for, the silverback gorilla. And before I go into detail on their strength, I gotta explain to you that a gorilla can't lift 4,000 pounds. Listen, I love gorillas, but just by doing any research, I couldn't find any studies saying they lift 4,000 pounds. It's just an internet myth. I don't know where it started, but a lot of websites use this misinformation. And for the reason, my guess, it was some dude back on MySpace back in 2006 was probably arguing with his friend about which animal could beat each other in a fight. And the one dude was probably like, actually, a gorilla could beat a crocodile in a fight. They actually lift 4,000 pounds. And then his friend is like, wait. And then his friend told a friend, spreads a lot of fake information online, and now my dumbass is here talking about it 19 years later. So it's not true. Not a lick of it is true. So if not 4,000 pounds, then how much is it? Well, let's go back to Google. So according to the Guinness Book of World Records, it states the heaviest weight a gorilla has lifted, which has been recorded, is 1,800 pounds. Now, only one issue. I can't find it being said by Guinness Book of World Records. I just keep seeing sites stating it was recorded by Guinness Book of World Records. Like, I don't doubt it. It seems very realistic, but I'm not sure how reliable it is. But let's say it is reliable. So a gorilla can lift 1,800 pounds. Is that the true answer? Not so fast. First, we gotta look at how strong humans are. Remember when I said muscle fibers of humans and gorillas are different, and humans have more slow twitch muscle fibers than fast, to the contrary of gorillas who have more fast twitch muscle fibers. I left one detail out though. If a human is highly active and exercising regularly with intensity, or is a high-level athlete like a football player, soccer player, bodybuilder, etc., there's some cases of Olympic-level athletes having as high as 80% fast twitch muscle fibers. But realistically, a lot of high-level athletes who take part in high-intensity sports likely have a little bit lower fast twitch muscle fibers. And comparing this to a gorilla, which has around 85% fast twitch muscle fibers, most athletes probably have like the mid to high range of 70%. So if we take Eddie Hall, for example, who won the World's Strongest Man competition in 2017 and is one of the strongest men in history, whom at his peak weight was 434 pounds, which is a little heavier than the average gorilla, and Eddie Hall's heaviest lift is 1,102 pounds. So since Eddie Hall is the size of a gorilla, likely has the same muscle fibers as a gorilla, and has the deadlift record, would that mean Eddie Hall has the same strength as a gorilla? Well, not exactly. First off, gorillas are still shaped differently than humans, but gorillas would still have thicker bones than a human. And even if you're an athletic freak like Eddie Hall, the bones would not be as thick as a silverback gorilla. So yes, same weight, same muscle fibers, it doesn't matter, a gorilla is still stronger. So now we know gorillas can lift more than 1,102 pounds. Now this narrows down our options. They can't lift more than 4,000, but they can lift more than 1,100. Damn, we're getting closer, but it's tougher. I'm trying to figure it out, damn it. Okay, so now we know their weight, muscle fibers, and their thick ass bones. They're stronger than the strongest human, but I don't believe it's an absurd amount of weight they're stronger by. So I'm cracking down that they cannot lift more than 2,500 pounds. So with this info, I want to see how their strength is in their day-to-day life. Let's look at their feats of strength in the zoo and the wild. So I've talked about the estimated strength and how strong they are at each age, and websites spreading misinformation, and others giving some reliable info. But heck, why don't we look at their strength used in their day-to-day life? Let's look at their feats of strength witnessed by people and caught on camera of gorillas in zoos and the wild. First thing I want to mention is when two silverbacks fight, these are two 400-pound big boys fighting, throwing limbs and wrestling each other, sometimes fighting to the death. So our first confirmed feat of strength is these apes have the strength to overpower each other while weighing over 400 pounds. And that's a gorilla fighting back. Being able to toss something and outpower something that's 400 pounds is impressive enough, but also doing it when they're resisting and trying to wrestle you back and overpower you, that is insanely strong. Moving on from gorillas fighting each other, they can easily rip trees down. Gorillas with one arm can rip a 150-pound banana tree with ease. Not the craziest feat, but ripping down a 150-pound tree with one arm without even looking like you're trying is really impressive in my opinion. Speaking of pulling with one arm, gorillas have shown to easily drag humans with one arm. Remember that lady who antagonized the gorilla and silverback broke out and dragged her 45 meters with one arm? The lady was probably like 120 to 140 pounds. Dragged her 150 feet with one arm. Pretty darn nuts. Speaking of gorillas breaking out, gorillas have shown to crack glass on their exhibit. The type of glass used in the gorilla exhibit is laminated glass. Laminated is a thick, strong type of glass that has 2 or more sheets. The glass is an inch thick. The force to break an inch of regular glass is 6,000 pounds per square inch, and laminated glass is 5 times as strong as regular glass. So it takes 30,000 pounds per square inch to break laminated glass. And our gorilla didn't break it, it only cracked it. So how much force did this gorilla use? Well, less than 30,000 pounds per square inch, that's for sure. I couldn't find any sites how much it is to just crack laminated glass, so I'll guess. It's gonna be less than half, which is 15,000, because the glass is still intact. So I'll guess the gorilla's PSI force from this video is roughly 6,000 to 10,000 PSI. To put that in perspective, Francis Ngannou, a 6'4", 270-pound full of muscle UFC and PFL champion, has the world record for the hardest punch at an estimated 1,800 to over 2,000 PSI. But gorillas technically can't punch. Bet you didn't know that. But they can still hit 3 to 5 times harder than the hardest human punch in human history, Donkey Kong style, baby. As I mentioned in my previous video, gorillas are not predators. They are actually prey to some animals. One of those animals being a leopard. And while gorillas are hunted by leopards rarely, if ever, go for a silverback, as a silverback likely wins the fight. But leopards are strong animals. They're powerful enough to carry a 270 plus pound dead animal up trees, and a gorilla can outpower that and beat those cats. True strength right there. We also get this video of a western lowland silverback who weighs over 400 pounds doing chin-ups while swinging his legs in the air. Like, I'm sorry, it shouldn't be that easy. He ain't breaking a sweat. Am I jealous? Yes, I am. I am very jealous. Here's another video of a gorilla ripping a thick knotted rope right off. I don't even know how much force this takes, but you see how thick that rope is? Dude just took it off for no reason whatsoever. So you get it. The big apes can lift a lot of weight. So now you've seen a gorilla use their strength for their way of life, how they survive, and have shown to have some serious power, be it with inanimate objects or alive things. But now let's put a gorilla in a human's world, and a human's way of testing their strength. That's right. I'm finding out a gorilla's big 3 lifts: bench press, squat, and deadlift. Let's go. So now I'm gonna do my best to give a good old educated guess on the gorilla's big 3 lifts: bench press, squat, and deadlift. And yes, I'm aware, gorillas would do none of these lifts weighted, besides maybe a deadlift. But they would never do a bench press and never ever do a weighted squat of a barbell on their back. But just imagine if they did. Let's start with the bench press, and luckily the YouTuber Creature Challenge did a video on a gorilla's bench press, and he did a lot of research, and gave a very good guess on a gorilla's bench press. He figured this out by looking at a study that recorded the maximum isometric force from the shoulder and collarbone of an 80.5 kilogram West lowland gorilla. Then with that information and measurements of the gorilla's shoulder and collarbone, he scaled this measurement up to a 408-pound silverback gorilla, and did calculations on what muscles are used for the bench press, and got a total force. Watch his video on it, he did a way better job of explaining it than I did. The video will be in the description. But basically, he got all this information and came to the conclusion that a 408-pound silverback gorilla can bench press roughly 925 pounds, which is still 140 pounds better than the best raw bench press in the world. Now, since this was a 408-pound silverback, we know that they can get smaller and some can get bigger. So I'll give my estimated guess on the gorilla's bench press range, lowest being the smallest silverback and the biggest being the heaviest silverback. Does being bigger always mean you're stronger? No, but I feel more times than not, it really does mean you are stronger, especially when it's an animal. So, my guess, not a scientist by the way, just some dumb guy, I'd guess a silverback gorilla could bench press in the range, depending on size, from 875 pounds to 1100 pounds. Considering some silverbacks can get over 500 and near 600, I feel 1100 pounds is a possible feat for the silverback. Alright, now the squat. Now, this is a lift that is more realistic than a bench press, as gorillas regularly squat because they're an animal and need to grab stuff because they're alive. But a weighted squat with heavy ass weights on a gorilla's back would probably never happen because a gorilla would probably not like that too much. But what if we could? What if we somehow got this gorilla under a barbell and got him to do a squat? Well, first of all, I'll state this. The gorilla's upper bodies are stronger than their lower bodies. However, I believe their squat would still be more than their bench press. Mainly because a bench press mainly only uses your chest, tricep, and front deltoids, but a squat pretty much uses your hamstrings, quads, glutes, core, and your back. And gorillas have incredibly strong muscles on their back, and it is one of the strongest muscles on their body. So although gorillas' arms are stronger than their legs, a squat uses more muscles than a bench press, and including the back muscles, a gorilla should generate more force on a squat than a bench press. So to find out this, we gotta look at humans again. Could a gorilla out-squat Larry Wheels? Well, let's find out. Now, we know gorillas are more powerful than humans, and the world record for the best squat is 1,080 pounds by Ray Williams. So we already know that gorillas are going to squat more than 1,080 pounds. But humans also have longer femurs than gorillas. And a femur, who doesn't know, is just a thigh bone, and it's a very powerful bone, and humans typically have 18-inch long femurs, while silverback gorillas get up to 15 inches. Why does this matter? Because when you have a short femur to a long torso, it's easier to keep an upright position than those with long femurs and short torsos. And looking at a gorilla, they got short femurs, making it easier to squat than a human. So gorillas already have a better squat than humans, and then adding on the short femur bone, I'm gonna give a guess. Not a scientist, not saying this is realistic. I'm just giving my estimated guess here, everyone. Alright, lowest weight being smallest silverback to heaviest weight being the biggest silverback. I'm guessing a silverback could squat, if we somehow got them to, roughly 1,200 to 1,600 pounds. Again, don't take this to heart. From my research, I believe it would be in this range. So, sorry Larry, gorillas can squat more than you. Alright, now I've saved the best for last, the deadlift. The gorillas may not be the best for the bench press and squat, but they are built for the deadlift, which is a true way to determine your strength. So unlike a bench press, a deadlift is something a gorilla would be doing in the wild, so its muscles will be heavily used to lifting in this position, and a gorilla has the perfect build for a deadlift. Long arms, short legs, it is quite literally perfect for the deadlift. So how much could these apes lift? Well, let's go back to the best deadlift for a human. So technically, it's half Thor Bjornsson who has the best deadlift with 1,101 pounds. So now the gorilla has another advantage because they didn't evolve to push things. They evolved pulling, and deadlift is all pull. So what is their deadlift? Quiet! I'll tell you. Okay, so now, not a scientist, some dumbass on the internet. I believe the smallest silverback to the largest silverback could deadlift in a range between 1,800 pounds to 2,200 pounds. So there you have it, people. I believe the max strength a gorilla could get on a bench press is 1,100 pounds, 1,600 pounds on a squat, and 2,200 pounds on a deadlift. Boom! Absolute cinema. There you have the strength of a gorilla. Maybe, in my opinion. But now I have a question that I want to be answered. What species is the strongest of all the gorillas? There's 4 species with slightly different characteristics. Which one is the strongest and which one is the weakest? Let's just say whoever's the strongest can squat, bench press, and deadlift the most. So, there is no definitive info saying which species is the strongest. However, studies have shown increased body mass means more muscle. And I know you may think, what if a gorilla is obese? That isn't muscle. While that is true, the gorilla subspecies all have different weights, but their body types at those weights are relatively the same. It's just smaller heights, different weights type of thing. So technically the heaviest in each species would be the strongest. So by these standards, the weakest gorilla subspecies would be the western lowland gorilla, because gorillas usually weigh just a little bit over 300 pounds. Yes, some could reach 400 pounds, but the average is around 300 pounds. So the western lowland gorilla would be dead last. And second last is the cross river gorilla. These gorillas might be the smallest, but there's so few of them, and they're the least studied of all the gorillas. And the average silverback is roughly around 350 pounds. Could be lower, could be higher, but this is information I got. The second strongest species is the mountain gorilla. Mountain gorillas are the furriest of the species, and the average silverback weighs near or about 400 pounds. A very big ape. And my ranking of the second strongest gorilla subspecies. And now the only subspecies left is the eastern lowland gorilla, which is the biggest and would be the strongest, as some silverbacks can get to 500 pounds. They're absolute monsters, and if we translate mass to strength, the eastern lowland gorilla is the strongest gorilla subspecies by far. Alright, there you have it. From weakest to strongest: western lowland gorilla, cross river gorilla, mountain gorilla, and eastern lowland gorilla. Well, there you have it. That's all the stuff on gorilla strength. But hey, since we're here, I want to see how gorilla strength can translate to fighting other animals, because why not? Gorillas are no stranger to fights. They have had fights against full-grown leopards and other silverback gorillas, and have stood tall in the end. But how about against animals that aren't in their habitat? Well, let's take a look, shall we? And I think the perfect animal to start off with is the one it's always paired up with: the grizzly bear. And listen, people, come close, come close. I want to say something. Gorillas are my favorite animal in this world. Love these apes, but a silverback is not. I repeat, is not beating a grizzly bear in a fight. I don't know why this debate started. Some people say it started 57 years ago when Joseph Rogan was born. I don't know. But what I do know is a silverback is not beating a grizzly bear. How do we know this? Well, first of all, the average silverback weighs just over 400 pounds. The average grizzly bear weighs around 600 to 700 pounds. So first off, a grizzly bear outweighs a gorilla by nearly or about 200 pounds. Then we get into the big part of the fight, the strength. The average silverback probably has a max lift around 1,800 to 2,000 pounds, if my guess is correct, not 4,000 as I previously mentioned. And the grizzly bear doesn't have confirmed strength, but they have been seen flipping dumpsters that weigh over 700 pounds with ease and can carry stuff that is 1,000 pounds with ease. So the strength of a grizzly bear and gorilla is very likely similar. And even if the gorilla is a little bit stronger than the grizzly, it doesn't matter. The grizzly outweighs it by nearly 200 pounds and is 8 to 9 feet tall, has 3 to 4 feet on a gorilla. Oh, did I forget, everybody, that gorillas aren't predators? What does this mean? Gorillas didn't evolve to kill things. They evolved to survive. They're more lovers than fighters. As I mentioned, they're hunted by leopards. Sure, majority of the time the leopards go for the babies, but adult leopards have killed silverbacks one-on-one. It is very rare, but it still happens. And those leopards only grow to be like 200 pounds, maybe. That's 200 pounds less than a gorilla. So if a 200-pound jungle cat can give a silverback some trouble, imagine what a 600, 700-pound crazed bear would do. Also, I have mentioned this, that gorillas didn't evolve to kill things. Grizzly bears do. They're the complete opposite. They're predators. Some grizzly bears have killed mooses, and the average moose could weigh over 1,000 pounds. There is no difference here. A grizzly bear would easily wrestle a gorilla to the ground, bite its neck, and it's over. That's it. Pans out like that. But it's the truth. They're my favorite animal in the world. But you gotta be honest with yourself and with nature, and I have to admit, the gorilla is heavily outmatched by a grizzly bear. So grizzlies off the table. While we're at that, let's scratch our tigers, because if the gorilla has trouble against a 200-pound cat, they're pretty cooked against a 700-pound cat. Let's also cross out hippos, rhinos, brown bears, elephants. They all beat our favorite large apes. So what animal is a fair battle for the gorilla? Well, the battle I like is the black bear. So male black bear's weight can vary from 150 to 500 pounds. So let's say our black bear is about 300 pounds. A 300-pound black bear versus a 400-pound silverback gorilla. The silverback would have around the same strength as a grizzly bear and would be wrestled by the grizzly bear. However, the black bear is lighter and would be weaker than a silverback. As the maximum strength of a black bear is not confirmed, but they have shown feats of strength. In fact, a 120-pound black bear has been seen flipping 300-pound rocks one paw, meaning the small bear can flip over 600 pounds with 2 paws. Golly, we scaled that to a 300-pound bear. That bear can move 750 pounds with one paw, meaning 1,500 pounds with both both arms. This isn't lifting the rock, it is moving it, but a black bear does have the strength to move a 1,500-pound object. Black bears also have a bite PSI of 800. So our silverback gorilla, which is 400 pounds, to the black bear's 300 pounds. The silverback would be stronger, but not by an insane amount, and the gorilla would have a stronger bite force. It's looking good, baby. We're gonna get it done. Let's go. So now it's looking good for the gorilla. However, the channel Creature Challenge did do a video on the gorilla versus black bear, and he does point out that gorillas do have an easy to penetrate skin. Well, easy for a gorilla. Their skin is hella tougher than ours, but you get it. It's easy to pierce for a black bear. So even though a gorilla's bite force is stronger, the black bear would do more damage with its bite because its skin of the gorilla isn't as thick as the black bear, and the black bear also has a thick coat of fur protecting the skin from that, so it's gonna be tough to penetrate. He also mentions the speed of the two animals is relatively the same, with both reaching around 30 miles per hour. Now the gorilla does have long arms, as I mentioned, for flailing around like a lunatic, and they will grapple as well, but as I mentioned, a 200-pound leopard technically can kill a silverback, but it is rare. Now a 300-pound black bear versus a 400-pound silverback gorilla. Gorillas have a size advantage, but black bears have better defense. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. This is about a 50-50 fight, but it's my channel, so the silverback wins 51% of the time, baby. There you have it. It beats the black bear. Barely, but it beats the black bear, baby. Let's fucking go. All right. Bears are too common. Let's find a different animal to fight our silverback. Let's try a jaguar. They're bigger than a leopard, smaller than a tiger, meaning a more fair fight for the silverback gorilla. Jaguars can weigh up to 300 pounds. Let's take a 300-pound jaguar up against our shiniest silver gorilla. So you know gorilla stats now. Now let's look at the jaguar. Jaguars are hella powerful as they hunt the fierce and dangerous capybara, which is a great feat in itself that not even a gorilla would ever challenge. But on a serious note, the jaguar, like the black bear, has thick skin and fur, which means it could take a gorilla's bite. And jaguars have a stronger bite than a black bear, but also a gorilla with 1,500 PSI. And remember, the skin of a gorilla is easy to draw blood, so the jag could tear up that gorilla's skin. However, a gorilla does have size and strength advantage, but unlike the bear, which does grapple and wrestle, a jaguar is fast and elusive than a black bear, as they can move at 50 miles per hour. So boys, I give the gorilla a win against the black bear. But against a jaguar, I can't. A 300-pound jaguar may not be as big or strong, but its claws, its teeth, would rip the gorilla's skin, and its evasiveness as well. I think the jaguar wins the fight most of the time. The gorilla could definitely win, but 6 to 7 times out of 10, I think the jaguar wins. Alright, now enough about gorillas fighting in the UFC. How about a gorilla doing something else, like bodybuilding? Let's check it out. Okay, listen, it's a new hobby I've got into, that being bodybuilding, and I'm interested. I'm not good at it, but I like it. It's my life, dude. Get off my back. So first off, gorillas, by their way of life, are technically bodybuilders by the definition of bodybuilding, which is strengthening and enlarging your muscles through exercise. Gorillas eat lots of food, have lots of exercise, of climbing and moving heavy objects, and they build muscle by doing this. So by definition, their way of life is bodybuilding, and technically they are bodybuilders. But I want to know how they do in a competition. Okay, first off, let's find a gorilla's body fat percentage. Only one issue: there are very limited studies on their body fat, but I will look at the information given. The first study takes 4 adult gorillas with different ages and sex. This study showed that the maximum estimate of body fat was 19.4% to 44% of all the gorillas. So it's very limited, as you see. One of these gorillas also had 44% body fat and was obese. So yeah, the average body fat between these gorillas was 31.7%. But again, there's only 4 gorillas, so it doesn't tell the full story of their body fat. And all 4 of these gorillas also averaged 37.1% muscle to body mass ratio. There's also another study of gorillas' body fat. It also took information from 5 silverback western lowland gorillas. Of the 4 gorillas, the leanest had 8% body fat, and the fattest was over 20% body fat. All 4 gorillas combined have an average of 15.4% body fat, and all 5 gorillas' average percent of muscle to body mass was 38.8%, which does correlate with the first study's muscle to body. So now gorillas average a good healthy body fat, but it would need to be lower for a bodybuilding competition. And the average muscle to body fat is good, but the muscle would need to be higher. And yes, there was a gorilla with 8% body fat and 46.4% muscle of its 379-pound body, but this silverback died at the age of 27 due to cardiac arrest. Could its death be due to its low body fat percentage? I don't know, but this low body fat percentage for a gorilla is rare, and majority of silverbacks likely are in the range of 15 to 20% body fat in their peak, and average around 30% muscle to their body mass. And obviously with age, you lose muscle and gain fat, but at the prime adulthood, I think body fat would be 15 to 20%, which is good, but it wouldn't compete with the top competition in bodybuilding. But how about the peak gorilla? I talked about the 8% body fat and the 46.4% muscle to body mass. Could it compete with an IF BB Pro bodybuilder? Well, as I've stated, it's rare for a gorilla's body fat to get this low, but if we use this gorilla, how would it do against an IFBB pro? And boys, unfortunately, our leanest gorilla with some of the highest amount of muscle you can get for a gorilla still wouldn't beat a top level bodybuilder. As I stated, this gorilla has a very good muscle to body mass ratio of 46.4%. A lot of bodybuilders are in the range of 45 to 50% muscle to their body mass, and elite bodybuilders can actually get over 50%. So humans would still have a higher muscle percentage. And high-level IFBB pro bodybuilders get their body fat usually between 4 to 6%, and some even lower. A gorilla is close to our best humans at bodybuilding, but it still isn't enough. Unfortunately, gorillas wouldn't be better bodybuilders than humans. Sorry, lads. But don't be sad. Even if a gorilla did have lower body fat percentage and higher muscle, they would never, ever win a competition. How do we know this? We just gotta look at a gorilla. You see him, he's big and strong. He's somewhat ripped, right? Some gorillas have pretty good abs. Not super ripped, but it's lean. It's pretty good, right? So you're like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. And then you see their chest and it's ripped, but it's kind of small. So you're like, not the best. But hey, their arms, shoulders, and back look great. And you go, okay, all right. Now we're cooking. They're big, muscular. It's great. Awesome. But then you look at their legs and you go, oh, okay, again, they're big and strong, but they aren't very vascular. There's a lot of hair there. You can't see the thigh or the hamstring muscles. And at this point, they wouldn't be good in a competition. But here's the cherry on top. You ever see a gorilla's ass? Like, no. Not when they bend over, when they're staying up on their hind legs. Oh, you haven't? Oh, well, I get the pleasure of showing you. You ready? Here it is. There is no ass! Gorillas have no ass! Boom! Competition off. My contestant has no yams. That was the nail in the coffin. And at this point, I'm thinking, yeah, gorillas wouldn't be the best bodybuilders. And if you look at a silverback standing up, they got a giant belly sticking out like your dad does after coming home from his 9-to-5 job. Gorillas are basically just in an endless bulk, which I heavily with, and is another thing me and gorillas have in common. But hey, even if they wouldn't be good, I'm gonna rank the species from worst to best on bodybuilding. You know me by now. I'm doing this. You can't stop me. I'm doing this. Now, they're all relatively the same body type, but let's just do it anyways. In dead last, I gotta put the mountain gorilla because of their fur, and I see a lot more of them having big guts than the other gorilla species. Great physique, but the weakest of the four. Second last will be the cross river gorilla because there's very little images of them, and the photos don't show them too chiseled, so they come in second last. God, what am I doing in my life? I'm in too deep, I gotta keep going. In second, I got the eastern lowland gorilla. These could be one, but they are the biggest apes, and they do have very good physiques, but they also have a smaller population, so there's not a lot of photos of these giant apes, meaning the best gorilla for bodybuilding, by technicality, would be the western lowland gorilla, mainly because they win by default. They are the biggest population of gorilla species, and there's so many different shapes of these gorillas, and a lot of them are pretty damn ripped, like Harambe, which is vascular. And of course, this could be wrong, but western lowland gorillas have the biggest population, and we see some very muscular western lowland silverbacks. They win technically. They're technically the weakest, but they'd be the best for bodybuilding. But even at their most ripped, they still just kind of look like they're bulking. So yeah, bodybuilding, not a sport they'd be good at. A chimp or bonobo would be much better, as chimpanzees and bonobos can get as low as 0.01%. Holy shit. Perfect bodybuilders right there. Gorillas are much more made for strongmen, and with their strength, it certainly makes sense. And that's it. You know sort of kind of how a gorilla's strength would be and how they do in bodybuilding from my research and my educated guess. But hell, I'm not done yet. Since we got a new Donkey Kong game coming out in July, why don't we find out how strong Donkey Kong is? Donkey Kong needs no introduction. He's your favorite gorilla, one of Nintendo's most popular characters, and he loves bananas, man. Donkey Kong may not look like it, but he's 7'10". I'm sorry, it really puts in perspective how big Nintendo characters are. Mario's gotta be pushing like 6'5" if DK's 7'10", and bro is looking like a walking potato. Anyways, let's find out DK's strength. And why am I doing this? Because I'm weird, man. God made me this way. Donkey Kong has some great feats of strength in video games, throwing barrels at Mario, battling and defeating Sumo Kong in space, and a wind-up punch that can launch you off the screen in Smash. And all of those are cool and all, but his greatest feat of strength has to be when he punched the moon into Earth. That was a really big jump, my goodness. In Donkey Kong Country Returns, Donkey Kong gets launched into space and comes down with a fiery punch to the moon, shooting it into Earth. So how much power? How much strength? How much force is needed to produce this much power? Well, let's figure it out right now. First off, the moon weighs this. I don't know how to pronounce that. Or this many zeros. In kilograms, not pounds. Pounds is this. Yep, that's a lot of zeros. Let me see here. I don't know, like 30-something zeros? Crazy shit, right? So he punches the moon, falling to be fair, but the punch to the moon is so hard it lands on Earth. So how hard did Donkey Kong punch the moon? The moon is 238,855 miles from Earth, and Donkey Kong's punch got the moon there in 2 seconds. 238,855 miles traveled in 2 seconds, or 119,427 miles a second, which is 64% of the speed of light. Meaning Donkey Kong's punch to the moon, which is this much, see that? A lot of pounds, traveled over 200,000 miles in 2 seconds. So how much power is required to do that? And bear with me, I had to Google this to figure this out, so I could be completely wrong in this. First, multiply the total miles by the number of 1 mile in meters, then divide it by the seconds traveled. Then multiply that number with the kinetic energy equation. Then multiply that number with the seconds traveled. Then divide that number by 1 unit of horsepower. Now, the amount of power to move something 238,000 miles in 2 seconds is this. Big ass number, right? And now I'm gonna figure out the weight. And if I'm wrong, I wasted a lot of time, but F it. The total power times the weight in pounds is this. That is the total power in pounds Donkey Kong gave in that punch. That is so freaking big. You could fit a quintillion with 18 zeros after the first number this many times into that. That is how strong Donkey Kong's punch is. Donkey Kong's power scaling is literally on another level. I don't know how anyone's not dead from getting a single punch from Donkey Kong. I don't know. I don't make the rules, guys. I'm just telling you the information. It makes me wonder why this dude Donkey Kong is dying to basic birds in these goddamn games. That pisses me off. Dying to those stupid little zoned out birds that just barely move. You get hit once, you're dead. Like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm ranting. I'm getting off track. Donkey Kong, by this standard, has got to be the strongest Nintendo character. Actually, scratch that. Besides Kirby, because Kirby can regulate power from anyone, which is absurdly powerful, which makes Donkey Kong way less impressive, but whatever. But since we're here, let's see how Donkey Kong would do in a bodybuilding competition. No. He's a cartoon character, guys. He's not real. But if he did, he'd probably do no leg muscle definition, chest looks good, arms and shoulder as well, but no abs. It's basically the same as a gorilla in real life. Guys, I don't know what to tell you, man. He's not real. He's a video game character. But there you go. That's how strong Donkey Kong is and how he'd do in a bodybuilding competition. I hope you use this information well in your day-to-day life. So we have learned a lot today, haven't we? We found out gorillas can probably squat, bench press, and deadlift to this much weight. We found out their feats of strength in the wild. How they should probably try a cut if they ever want to do a competitive bodybuilding competition. And finally, finding out the max strength of Donkey Kong. This is information that needs to be known. And now you know. You're welcome, or I'm sorry. But always remember one thing, everybody. Always, get your pets spayed and neutered. And that is the video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. I wanted to make another gorilla video, so I just decided to do their strength, because their strength is honestly like a huge part of a gorilla, and it's obviously always talked about on the internet, so I made a video on it. And if you're wondering why it was so hard to find out a gorilla's strength, and that no one really knows the true max strength, it's because there's not a lot of gorillas left in the wild. The highest population of gorilla species left is the western lowland gorilla, which is about 300,000, which is still classified as critically endangered. So when your highest population of species is still critically endangered, it's hard to get, like, figuring out all their stuff, how strong they are, what do they do in their way of life, because there's so few of them. They're not as studied as other animals, but they're still a damn popular animal, and I really hope these animals do not go extinct, because that'd be very sad. But it's a good thing, because the WWF and officials and people in Nigeria and Cameroon and Congo and Rwanda, etc., are all helping the gorillas stay afloat and making sure they don't go extinct, which is nice and good. Shout out to all those people who are making sure the gorillas stay safe. And so that was my video, everybody. And if you're wondering, I think for my future plans of videos, I'll make some more gorilla videos, but it's kind of hard, obviously, as I told you, because gorillas information is very not a lot. There's some, but it's not crazy amount as much as other animals, but I'll try. And I want to remake my God of War iceberg video. Not fully remake it. I'm going to keep all the imagery and the videos in it. I'm just going to re-record it and maybe add a few additions to it, because some stuff has happened. Oh, some stuff has happened with God of War, right? So I'm going to do that, and hopefully you guys enjoy that more, because I know the audio was pretty shit. I'm aware, listen, I'm aware the audio was shit. I rushed it. It took me a long time to do it. I just wanted to get it out. That's my bad. I gotta be better. So I'm gonna re-record it, and hopefully it sounds better, and I'll add a few additional things to it, and hopefully everyone will like it and be happy and not mad at me at all. Of course they're not gonna be mad at me. No one's gonna be mad. Of course not. But that is the plan, ladies and gents. I obviously want to make some other stuff besides gorillas and God of War, but right now that's what I'm doing. So you're gonna have to deal with that for the time being. But thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.